Hello, I'm back again. Today I'm here to talk about all of the James Bond films from worst to best. Okay, I have tried to rack my brain for the worst James Bond movie, and it's so hard because my mood changes like the wind. It all depends on how much pleasure, the quality, the rewatchability. This is how I have to base it. Like, do I want to rewatch this film? And I'm going to say that my least favourite James Bond movie is Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies, to me, was an absolute travesty of a sequel compared to GoldenEye. It was rushed, it was awful, and I think it's the worst James Bond film. I get no pleasure from watching this film. It's a paint by numbers. Let's try. I don't know, there's no heart, there's no chemistry between James and the Bond girls. The villain is weak. Jonathan Pryce, compared to Sean Bean, just everything about this character just is ugly. It's an ugly film to watch. It looks and feels dated. Everything's this red tone, which it's depressing to the eye. So I'm going to put that right at the bottom. And then I'm torn with what comes next. What do I put next? And I'm going to go with Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever has all the elements of a good James Bond movie, but is so poorly executed, so tired in formula, so bleached of colour. Everything about this film is ugly, barring the song. The song is what somehow keeps this film alive, because everything about it is wrong. You've got Sean Connery coming back because George Lazenby didn't want to, and it's so apparent that he's phoned in his performance. I don't know what it was about this 1971 gritty, let's make everything look dull type filming, but it's just ugh. Which leads me to my next one. It's another Pierce Brosnan movie. It is The World Is Not Enough. This film is bad from start to finish. It tries to be good. It has everything that I would want to see in a Bond movie, which is the UK, the Millennium Dome, London. But you've got Robert Carlyle in this position of this terrifying villain from the trailer. This guy who could feel no pain. Imagine that. You could feel no pain. And it's so poorly used. It feels like a BBC drama. As did Tomorrow Never Dies. It feels like an episode of some shitty... Just everything. The casting again. It's like, oh, we need a Bond girl who's hot and popular. She wasn't even popular. Denise Richards. She wasn't popular. She did a couple of films. She wasn't popular. She wasn't classed as a good actress. And it shows. Horrid film. Most people would say Die Another Day would have been the worst James Bond film, but no. After rewatching that a few times, yes, it's cheesy, yes, it's corny, but does it have rewatchability? Yeah. You sit and watch The World Is Not Enough, right, and say to me, you know what, I won't mind watching that again next week. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody. And if they do say it, they're fucking lying. Which leads me to the next one. The Man with the Golden Gun. This film is so... It's lost the plot. It's lost the plot with what it wants the viewer to enjoy. There's people pretending to be mannequins, and I bring this up all the time, but Roger Moore cannot stand still, so don't make him be a mannequin. You can see him moving. Rubbish. Okay, so the next film, in the order of from worst to best, is Live and Let Die. Barring the song, this film is not good, and I've got numerous reasons. They try and justify magic in this film, and it really drops the ball, because we're meant to believe in James Bond, but they introduce tarot card reading, and they also introduce voodoo, and they are trying to imply that it's real, and because of that, it scores very low. because as an audience viewer in 2024 and after rewatching them, it just doesn't hold up. The boat chase scene is too long. Not a lot really happens in this movie. And I think overall, it's not very good. Which leads me to my next one, and it's Daniel Craig's worst Bond movie, and everyone knows which one it's going to be, and it's Quantum of Solace. This one just feels so disjointed, very poorly put together. A desperate attempt of a cash cow. An unworthy sequel to Casino Royale. A completely different speed of pacing compared to the first one. This one is high octane, but not in a good way. The edits are so quick and rapid that you don't care what's going on. You don't believe what's going on. You're too much in the action. Like, there's too much going on. And it feels rushed. And the theme song is not very good. Just everything about this film just doesn't quite work. But it's better than the ones I've previously mentioned. So I'm putting Quantum of Solace here. And next, I'm going to go with Die Another Day. Although I praised this earlier on, it's still not a good film, but for rewatchability, I would put it straight after Quantum of Solace. Or in front. This one just feels tired, but it's trying to do something fun. Where Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough failed, this one redeems itself. However, there's too much unbelievability in this one, and they're so heavily reliant on CGI in this one that you're sick of it. There's lasers, there's kite surfing, I don't even know what that is. Like, he's using the parachute from an ejector seat as a surfboard. I don't know what he's doing in this scene, but it's ugly to watch. And I keep using the word ugly because it's true. When you're watching it, you can't believe how ugly it is. Like, the effort that's gone into the special effects making is not good. This next one's really hard to decide between. I'm gonna say Moonraker. Moonraker does feel rushed. It doesn't have the attention to detail that The Spy Who Loved Me got. Like, that to me is magnificent, and this is mediocre. They're trying, but it's very desperate. It feels like it's on less sets and more in real life, like estate homes. It felt like they had to hire places to do a lot of the filming rather than build the sets like they usually did. It's not a bad movie. I like some aspects. The theme tune is wonderful. Shirley Bassey does so well with the Moonraker theme. But the plot is silly. And they end up in space, which I don't mind. But Jaws gets disrespected in this one. The way he's portrayed. They turn him into this goofball, idiotic villain that keeps making mistakes all the time and pulling silly faces like this. Next for me is Thunderball. After watching this recently, it just doesn't have the pizzazz that the first three Sean Connery James Bond movies have. It's lost something. It couldn't keep or maintain what Goldfinger brought to the mix. Is it a bad movie? No, that's why it's middle of my list, but it's not memorable for me. It's a bit exhausted. The theme tune's great. Tom Jones does a wonderful Bond theme. But Sean Connery is experiencing some fatigue in this, and not with the way he looks, but just how he's tired of playing the same character. I don't know if many people will agree with me on this next one, but for me it's Spectre. I did do a review on this and the reasons why I don't like it, and it's because the last act is terrible. Everything leading up to that is wonderful. Blofeld is wasted, especially with the acting talents of Christoph Waltz, but I'm not going to go into all of that. Also the colour turn, this sepia, brown, overwhelming, boring visually to look at, filter. Great theme tune, Sam Smith songs, still great, listen to that on the regular. But does it make the film rewatchable? No, because it's so drab. Because of the ending. They didn't know how to end this film, and they end it so badly. So that's there. Now, what would I put next? Octopussy. I prefer Octopussy to Spectre because it's entertaining to watch. You can rewatch Octopussy 2 or 3 times a year. Spectre, once if you're lucky. So Octopussy, what do I love about it? I even love the theme tune. It's not a very good one, but it's memorable. I love the joy that this one brings. The scenery in this one's wonderful. Is it silly? Very. But do I enjoy it? Yeah, I like watching it. It's good. Lewis Jordan's a great villain. There is some silly scenes like the Tarzan yell and the tennis humour just doesn't land, especially in 2024. If you don't know who the guy is, the tennis player, then these jokes go over your head. So basing this all on rewatchability, I'm going to go with Dr. No next. I do like this one, but do I want to rewatch it? No. It's too basic. I prefer a more developed Bond. And you can feel that this is in its infancy. Is it a great Bond? Yeah. And does it introduce us to this entire world and franchise? Yes. But do I want to rewatch it? No. And that's why I'm putting it in this position. Okay, so next for me is You Only Live Twice. The concept and the idea of this film is good. However, it suffers from that era of trying to make the imagery less colourful. It's not as drab as Diamonds Are Forever the way it looks, but it feels like it's been filmed on the cloudiest of days. And I don't want that in a James Bond film. I want to escape. I want to imagine being in these exotic locations, and I feel like this one just misses the mark. Some of the set designs are phenomenal, however, it needs just that little bit more colour. I think the theme tune to this one is superb. I could listen to the soundtrack to this film all day long, but the actual quality of the story and the way it's filmed, not so good. So it's one of the weaker of the Sean Connery franchise for me. Next for me is Roger Moore in For Your Eyes Only. I actually like this one. It's very serious in tone. It's not that impressive of a storyline, but the way it's directed and the way it feels more grown up. And there's something about this particular Roger Moore one. It might be the set design. I love the rope climbing scene where he uses his shoelace or his bootlace. I think that's great. I also think that the car chase scene's pretty good. Is it dated? Yeah. Is it quite boring? Yeah. But there's something about this one that I enjoy. It doesn't try to be silly, and I like that. Now I know that people are going to not agree with this decision at all, but I really don't care, because this is about rewatchability. And A View to a Kill with Roger Moore comes next on my list. Most people vote this the worst of the worst of James Bond, but for some reason, I don't know if it's the era, my age, but I love this film. It's not great, and every time I watch it, I don't really know why I enjoy it so much, but I think it's the theme tune is just absolutely out of this world compared to the previous one from Octopussy All Time High, like A View to a Kill with Duran Duran. They did an amazing job. Would this film have been better if Timothy Dalton had starred in it? Yes, for sure. Does Roger Moore seem exhausted in it? Yes. But is Christopher Walken an amazing villain? Is the blimp scene an amazing scene? Yeah. Zorin. Mayday. What more do you want from a film? It's a great Sunday afternoon movie. It's not too ridiculous. It's more believable than some of the Sean Connery ones. Like, there's no ridiculous vehicle that is not of this earth. It's an actual blimp. Zorin has a blimp, and it's believable. And it's believable that he is a psychopath. So for that reason, this is why this score's here. This next film's pretty flawless. And does it deserve this ranking? Yes. And the reason for it is, for all of its beauty and what it brings, it's not quite as good as some of the rest. But it's not a bad film in any way, shape or form, and that's From Russia with Love. It's a bit lackluster, but there's this huge train sequence that, at the time, had not been done before, which is brilliant. And it doesn't really lead anywhere, but the film is beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and leads you to Goldfinger. Like, they progressively get better from Dr. No. So Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and then Goldfinger. It's like better, better, better. Next on my list for James Bond rewatchability is The Living Daylights. Timothy Dalton's my favourite James Bond. Does that mean he stars in the best James Bond movies? Who knows? But The Living Daylights scores here. The reason for it is, it's a bit too formula. He brings a grittiness that we see in License to Kill that needed to be exposed, but in The Living Daylights it's there, but not quite. It's still got a family turn to it. However, the theme song by a-ha is phenomenal. The end scene with the aeroplane and all the heroin, brilliant. It's a step up from A View to a Kill. Next for me on the list is Casino Royale. This is a great film. The parkour scene at the beginning is spectacular. The intro, not so good. You know, the graphics, I didn't like that. The song's not bad, but it didn't make me want to see more Daniel Craig movies. It wasn't until I saw Skyfall, which is next on my list. Skyfall. This film is great. The first time you watch it. The second time, it's good. The third, fourth, I'm on about the fifth time. You're looking at all the ridiculousness of Silver, how perfectly planned his execution of being taken into prison, being able to escape. It's all just ripped off from The Dark Knight. The Joker does exactly the same thing. And for me, it's why it's not higher up in the list. Do I like Skyfall? Yeah, it's good. Is he a great villain? Yeah. He's great. And that's why he scores so high. Because of him and his performance. James Bond himself, he's good in this, but it's all about the villain and this one and what he's going to do. What entertainment he can bring to the table. He's outshining James the whole way. It's a bit like when you watch a Batman film and you see the villains and it's all about the next villain. It's never about Batman. So that's where Skyfall sits here. I'm going to go on to GoldenEye next. GoldenEye is a superb film. The only thing that lets it down is it looks really dated. Some of the music choices in the score are not so good. Did it spawn an amazing game? Yeah. It came at the perfect time in the 90s. Everybody was longing for more James Bond. A new James Bond. We deserved it. And GoldenEye brought it. Sean Bean, brilliant villain. Didn't see it coming when I was a child. I was a child when I saw it. And overall, It's up there. I can rewatch this one many a time and never get tired. Next on my list is the one-time deal, George Lazenby's on Her Majesty's Secret Service. This film breathes so much fresh air into the franchise. It's the first time we see James Bond really potentially falling in love. The theme tune doesn't even have a singer, and it doesn't matter because the music's that good. George Lazenby does a great job, and I would have loved to have seen more. Telly Savalas as Blofeld's pretty good too. It's hard to fault this film. Does it have a lull in the middle? A little bit. Does it get silly at times? Yeah. But where it really needs to hit hard, it does it. It does it well. It makes you feel emotional for James Bond. Now, next on my list is Goldfinger. Goldfinger is an absolute gem. Visually, it's stunning. Sean Connery looks his best. He looks like he's having such a good time. And they are on to gold, literal gold, with the pacing of this film, the villain, the acting, the gadgets, the music, the cinematography, the colour schemes are gorgeous. It feels like a modern classic. I would rather watch this than Diamonds Are Forever any day of the week. Like, that is a bad film. But this is poetry. It's happiness for the eyes. And the reason for that is because of how it all gels together. You can see they're having a good time. And you want to have a good time with them. And this is the reason why it scores so highly. And I'm going to say License to Kill. I love rewatching License to Kill because it's the first time you see James Bond go and do his own thing. He's not following any rules. He's so angry in this film that the passion behind his eyes carries such... You feel for him. You want him to succeed. You want him to destroy Sanchez. You want him to take apart his empire that he's built because he loves Felix and his wife Della. And he wants to get revenge for him because we've seen Felix over all these years. We care. We care that he's been injured, and we believe that James is going to get the revenge that he deserves. And then I've got No Time to Die. And the reason for this is I'm a sadist. It's an emotional film. Right from the get-go, you get to feel the pain that James is suffering. There's so much in No Time to Die to enjoy. You get to see the heartbreak of James Bond. Like, he's madly in love, and you get to see a little glimmer of how happy he is. But Madeline is suffering. She's suffering badly because she's haunted by something from the past, which is going to re-emerge in this film. And there's something about this one that just stands out to me, as in, it's sad, it's full of sorrow, and ultimately it kills off James Bond. And after the third time of watching it, it's my second favourite James Bond film. So number one, I'm going to say, is The Spy Who Loved Me. The reason for this, it's a feast for the eyes. It is a banquet. It is gorgeously filmed. It introduces Jaws. Jaws is introduced as this unstoppable killing machine, and it is so wonderful to see an adversary like this. It reminds me of my childhood. It is something that I could recommend to watch to anybody. So watch this. Tell me what you think. Is this what James Bond should be like? Epic. Because the film is epic. You are taken into a world which is so wide. Like, you get to see so much in this. The camera scopes that they're using. I don't know how they do it, but they make the world seem so vast and wide. And upon rewatching it and rethinking about it and listening to the score and listening to the dialogue, the way they talk to each other, the villain. This is my number one for rewatchability, because I did rewatch it twice in a week and I was entertained both times. So for me, at this moment in 2024, The Spy Who Loved Me is my number one James Bond film for rewatchability. I suggest you go and watch it, experience it for yourself, and see and understand why this is my number one film to go to recommend when it comes to James Bond.